Hey there, welcome back to the Blissful Biz podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Brittany, a launch strategist from Australia who helps coaches and course creators design launches that actually feel fun and aligned. We dive deep into why so many entrepreneurs feel overwhelmed by launching, how to make social media a powerful part of your launch without burning out, and some really creative strategies Brittany has been experimenting with, including using Instagram close friend stories as a launch event. If you've ever felt like launching has to look like a huge production with a big team and endless webinars, this conversation will be such a refreshing perspective. I'm Susanna Riker, digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience, turned yoga teacher, turned six-figure online business owner. 10 years ago, I flew to Bali for a yoga teacher training, fell in love with the island, and decided to build an online business so I could live there. Can't be that hard, right? That decision launched me into an adventure bigger than I'd ever imagined. Over the last 8 years, I've guided over 1,000 yoga teachers and hard-led coaches how to launch and sell their digital offers, build their brand and websites, and build a profitable online business. In this podcast, I share real proven strategies and the exact steps that work. Whether you're just starting out or ready to scale, we'll dive into everything from creating offers your students can't resist to making digital marketing work for you. If you're ready to build a business that brings both freedom and success, you are in the right place. Brittany, welcome to the Blissful Biz podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. It's such an honor to have you. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners, what you do, where you are?
Well, I'm tuning in all the way from Australia, and my name's Brittany, and I have been, I guess, in the content sphere now for about 5 years. I originally started out as a social media manager, and that progressed into working with clients, I guess, in a more of a consulting basis. And that quickly transitioned, as it did for most people, into courses and programs. And as I was creating my own and selling my own, something I really enjoyed the process of was launching it and marketing it. And that's the part that I think I really was like, well, I love this so much, and I see so many people either, struggling with it, or it's the part of their business they didn't love the most. So I wanted to sort of change their perspective, whether it was me helping them or giving them the tools to do it on their own. So now I primarily work with other coaches and course creators on their launch strategies as well.
I love it. And also, I think I had a look at your Instagram just before our call, and I feel that energy really comes through. A few posts about launching, and I love that. Yeah, because a lot of people really get overwhelmed by it. And I think we all, when you see those big entrepreneurs launching, like Amy Porterfield, she shares very openly about what a big production her launch is. I think she even teaches it inside her program that you host 4 masterclasses, 4 live masterclasses and things. And she has a 10 people team, and it's 2 weeks taking over her life. And I don't want that. I don't want to launch like that. So it doesn't have to look that way. So I'm really excited to dive deeper into that conversation. And I mean, I've been launching since 2016, small launches, big launches, all kind, whatever works really with where I am in my life, basically. And I know you have a lot to share about that as well. And especially really want to dive into how to utilize social media for your launches. And I think you had an example. So maybe we can dive into that to start with. Really how you use social media in your launch, in your stories and posts, etc.
Well, definitely my whole world is Instagram and very Instagram central. And that obviously also makes a lot of sense for my niche and who I'm working with. But I really do believe a lot of people, well, I don't even know I believe this, I know this for a fact, so many people leave the content and their social media as the last thing on their launch to-do list. And I would never, pretend that launching isn't an active process. I mean, certainly there are elements of launching that are more active than anything, else, like more passive. It certainly doesn't need to be the whole Annie Porterfield's musical theater element, and have all of the bells and whistles, but it's certainly something that you're going to have a to-do list. There are moving parts required, and there are certain things you need to have in place. And naturally, I think because it's also the part that people aren't regularly putting a lot of energy and effort into, content falls to the bottom of the to-do list. And that means that they're not really leveraging the audience that they've already actually built. And they end up pouring a lot of money or time into list growth and other platforms, which all are certainly playing their role as well, when there's actually just this warm group of people who are waiting to be sort of activated and sold to. And a lot of the time people are just not thinking about, okay, well, how am I just speaking to people already here in the room with me? And how can I leverage the different elements of Instagram, which there are so many different parts of it, features, different tools, to actually get in front of my audience without the ad spend or without really, time aggressive strategies. And that's really something I'm passionate about, which has led me to sort of experimenting outside of that traditional launch framework.
So what does it look like? What do you need to have in place for, let's say, an Instagram first launch?
Well, it's definitely content first. Like if it's going to be Instagram and Instagram really is your central strategy, you want to be leveraging the different features on Instagram. So a lot of people will think, okay, well, I'm launching. I need to post some carousels. I need to post some reels. And certainly that's a part of it too. But thinking about, okay, how do my stories play a part in this? And who are my stories really being targeted at? Because there's a difference between the people mostly seeing my story content versus maybe the people seeing my reels content. So making sure you're putting the right messaging and angles into that. And then also leveraging some other lesser known features. So it might be your close friend story, which is, again, separate to your regular stories, or it could be your broadcast channel. And also leveraging those other, again, underutilized features like Instagram Lives, and just figuring out, how do all of these tools in my toolkit work? And when do I sort of need to turn up the volume on them in different parts of the launch to make the most of those different features?
Ooh, I love that. I have to admit, I use Instagram, but it's not my priority in my marketing. So I don't have a broadcast channel. I probably don't really utilize stories as good as I could. It's a lot of sharing personal glimpses into my life.
Mhm.
So I would love to hear just like some examples here that you have with us.
Well, I even want to remind you, it's not about using, I have a broadcast channel and I'm not using it all day, every day. And even with stories or reels and carousels, it's not that I'm sitting at this peak amount of posting every single week. I actually sort of like to work my way up during a launch ramp up to being able to sort of post at that higher volume, and then I can scale it back when I don't need it. And that's kind of the beauty I find in campaigns and launches as well. When it comes to stories and really being able to, I think, use them effectively, a lot of people go, well, I don't want to, become an influencer and share all the elements of my life. But I actually find there's so many different things, business innately is so much of us who we are anyway as online entrepreneurs. So it's finding those little key moments of connection that show who you are as a human being, and that translates into who you are as a business owner. And I think it is so important that your audience gets to see, how do you spend your time outside of business? Where do you value your time? How do you make sure that you're the right person or the best version of yourself for your clients? And that can look like switching off or working out and, going on holiday, all of those things. And those are, while sometimes can maybe feel trivial, if you're like, how does this make sense? It's actually just building this authority persona in the eyes of your, again, warmest leads. And it really is your warmest leads who are watching your stories. So it's really important that you're using that tool to further enhance that rapport and connection
No,
Otherwise,
definitely. I think personal branding is more important than ever, especially now with AI, with so much noise in the
really,
coaching industry. There's just like so much more going on. So building your personal brand, and yes, that means showing up also in a way that's authentic and personal and sharing glimpses of your life, right? I think this problem I have is that it's so fleeting, that it has
wow,
no longevity, not like a podcast episode or a YouTube video or something, and that you spend a lot of time creating content that simply just disappears in a day.
a lot of it could be in the same way, we repurpose blogs into carousels, into, threads. It's kind of just like you're again pulling another element down, and it's like, what are the little dolls that you pull the dolls outside of themselves? I'm not sure what that is. I'm probably butchering that. But again, it's not just about you going to Pilates or you drinking your matcha in the mornings. It's still also as well a really great authority tool, and that doesn't have to be different content or more content. It can actually be a lot of repurposing of what you're
Mm.
saying, because we know that not everyone's seeing everything. People will be following you and maybe miss your reel, maybe miss your carousel. So can you take that sort of like maybe one of the
Yeah.
paragraphs and just pop it up on stories and get more wear out of it, essentially?
Yes, definitely. And I think what you also touched on is that, yes, so it's not, the stories are not just the place to post 5 images that you create in Canva about like sign up for my masterclass, this is what you get, or buy my product now, this is what's included. Because if you only do that, it's probably going to fall flat, right?
Yes. Yeah, you want a bit of diversity, and it is a bit like, as you're saying, it's something that's fleeting. It's not there. So I like to see it less of a like content creation tool. It's more of a content like documentation tool. And maybe instead of being like, here's what's in my masterclass, here are the 3 things you're going to learn, it's just next time you're going in and finishing off your slides, doing a little preview of some of the slides on your stories and showing people. As much as we love to tell them all the facts and the statistics, people love to see the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and with those glimpses, it makes it feel like they're a part of something that's real and happening. And I think that's, again, another powerful element about live launches.
Yes, I love that. I love that, really taking people behind the scenes and inviting them basically also to co-create, maybe doing polls, what you're really looking forward to hear about. So would you still launch with a content event, like a masterclass that you host on Zoom? Or did you do like only Instagram lives and only content on social media?
So, yeah, good question. Again, I like to mix it up throughout the year too. So I'm not, a one trick pony, because I think as well our audience can get a bit, fatigued, or maybe they don't love live webinars. That's just not their thing. Or I know I work with a lot of people that don't live in the same country as me. So sometimes the time zones don't work out. So I think getting creative about how you can create those conversion events can be fun. I mean, I'm certainly a big fan of a webinar, but I also know some people who are the business owners don't love that either. So I recently experimented using the close friends element of stories, which is when you manually curate a list of people that can only access certain stories you're posting on Instagram. And what I ended up posting was basically a 3-day training series. And as if I'd done it on Zoom, which I have done in the past, which was great, but a bit of a logistical and, very energetic sort of conversion event. I flipped it and turned all of the material essentially into like some mini trainings on Instagram stories, but they were only accessible by people who were added to this list.
And
So
did they ask to be added to the list, or did you add them manually? I mean,
in the same way I would advertise a masterclass or a workshop, I advertised this training series, and they had to opt in. So they weren't just added. Everyone had to basically put up their hand and say, yes, I want to be added. And that's such a powerful thing in itself, because it's revealing who my leads are, right? It's revealing who my audience is, like, oh, okay, yeah, I want more of that. And I added people, ended up having about 250 people on my close friends list. And I did the trainings over the 3 days, gamified elements of it as well, in the same way you would if it was a Zoom series, getting people to stay to the end, getting them participating, getting them involved. And just the engagement and the feedback that I got of being like, I can watch these training, there's still 24 hours to watch it, but I could watch these trainings on my couch when I'm waiting to pick my kid up from school. I don't have to be on Zoom at the same time as you. I feel like I'm able to watch it all and watch it all again and screenshot and save it and ask you questions. And it was really like not only great for eventually how I ended up selling my offer, but really great for just that engagement and community element with my audience.
This is so fascinating. So did you deliver the trainings? Because I think it's like 60-second videos and stories, or how did you deliver it? Like a valuable training. I mean, you can't really do the same as in 1 hour long masterclass.
Yeah, so I knew going in, I was like, I have to think about this format and make sure, again, I'm not overloading them in that they won't want to watch it and tap all the way through. But I also want to make it valuable. Doesn't just feel like regular Instagram stories. It should feel different. So before I started, as I was growing this list of people, I did ask them and I said, would you prefer face to camera and I speak through everything, or would you prefer, static slides and I write everything out? Nothing fancy in Canva, but making it in Instagram stories. And I got a pretty even split. So I thought, well, I'll just mix it up. I'll do some verbal, I'll do some written. And once I had mapped out my training notes, which I did like pretty quickly in the same way you kind of prepare any kind of training notes, it was just a matter of putting together those stories. So again, I would verbalize a few different sentences. Maybe those videos were 30 to 60 seconds long. Then I'd have a few slides, and because it was all written and I'd pre-written my notes, it was kind of just copying and pasting into some slides. And maybe each day, because of a little bit of formatting things, and I think I got faster as I went, probably each day ended up taking about like 30 to 40 minutes to put together. But once I had filmed it all, the best part was just being able to sit on my couch and post it all. And I that was it. That was all I had to do.
I love that. It's really fascinating. And how did it work?
How did it work?
How
What
did
do
it
you mean?
work? How did it work? What were the results?
The results. Oh, okay. So, yeah, so the training was across 3 days and I was essentially teaching the framework I teach in my program. So it was very meta. It was lots of examples, examples and examples. And I was kind of teasing throughout each day as well that there was going to be an opportunity into my new program. I was looking for a very intimate group. This was a VIP, basically beta round of this program. So along the way, I was, having conversations with people. They were interacting with a lot of the polls, which was great as well. And on that third day, I essentially announced that applications were open, and I ended up filling all 5 of the spots I was looking for. I had about a week period of where I was finessing with those applications, chatting back and forth with people. And it all went down on my stories. There was no emails. There was no announcement on my regular feed. There was no real additional content. I had done all of that nurturing and selling in that environment. And not only did I have those buyers at the end, but I also had a bunch of other leads that were really like warmed up, ready to go, and had also great feedback that, if I was to eventually bring them through another launch again, they've now gone through that really intimate, exclusive experience with me.
I love how unique it is and how the creativity behind it, and that it reminds us that, yes, so you can experiment and try something else if you don't feel the typical masterclass format works for you and for your audience. I mean, this format obviously works for people who really are active on social media and know
Yes.
even like what a private story is. I think if you work with, I don't like the word normal people, but more like consumers and not B2B,
Yeah.
it would probably be a little bit more explaining that needed to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I think
So,
actually, to be honest, it was still an element of me having to educate my audience on this too. And I would preface that to anyone doing this. You need to be very clear on how this works for them, how they get access, how to know if they've got access, because they don't get like you're in confirmation. So I did leverage some automations using ManyChat to confirm that I had got their requests, let them know they'd be added within about 24 hours. Here's how to know what to look for. So I was able to automate a lot. I still had to manually add people, but that was really quite quick once I got into the flow of it. But it was just a little bit of communication around, what close friend stories are. And there's different ways as well to use close friends. It doesn't have to be a training where they need to be there every day. You could sort of play around with how you create that list. It could be that it's a VIP list. It could be just showing behind the scenes of a project, getting their intel and feedback on things, like using it for market research. So it doesn't have to be the more formalized sort of setting that I had it in, but getting creative and knowing how to market it well to make it really exclusive and fun is the key.
No, definitely. And I mean, it's true for probably every former, like people when they started masterclass, back then you had to explain how it works, or Zoom. I mean, now everybody knows Zooms, but a few years ago that was different. 5 years
Very
ago,
true.
before the pandemic. So I think that's really true for everything. And no, I really love that trying out and experimenting. And I'm always a little bit like, it's like always those two extremes. And then I also admire entrepreneurs who are so consistent in what they do and just get better and better and better. Like Amy Porterfield is a great example. Like she's not a creative person. I think she's the first one who would admit that. She's not really for trying out new things all the time, but she's great at really digging into things and then just like really improving. And I mean, she's built an amazing business. So, but at the same time, I'm like, I want to try out different things. And then and then it's so easy to get lost. And I see her doing this. And maybe I should do that. And maybe I should do this boot camp. And so, and then I know, maybe it's better to really focus and get really great at doing it one way. Do you know that feeling? So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I do. I think that I'm on both sides of the fence. I think it can be easy to fall into what's comfortable, and also what it can be comfortable for our audience too, and what they expect from us. And we kind of end up doing a lot of the same. But I think it can be fun to experiment and kind of branch out a little bit, kind of surprise and delight your audience and connect with them in new ways. And I think what kind of it circles back to is, why does Amy Porterfield keep launching? And also as well with this close friend strategy, what is it about it that makes it work? And it's that same psychology of how we take our audience on that buying journey. We give them a very specific decision window, and we obviously encourage them to buy through good, hopefully ethical marketing with integrity. And that's why she does it. That's why she repeats it. That's maybe why she's able to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, but optimizing it every time, because she is so consistent. Maybe in some elements it changes, but the true psychology of what she's doing and the true framework of what she's doing doesn't change. And that's what gives her all of these different levers to pull and optimize.
Yeah, I think that's also, it's just like adding different elements to your launches. Maybe adding something like those personal friend Instagram stories as an add-on. Or maybe even as like an order bump when people sign up, like as a tripwire, and then sign up and you get like that support or something. I think that's really interesting. There's so many different ways, that's a great reminder for people. Like maybe we have a lot of yoga teachers in my audience who are listening, a lot of like coaches, Pilates instructors. So, who maybe, I know a lot of people who launch like their online course one time or maybe twice, and then the second time they launch it to the same audience and the results weren't as great, and then they basically give up. And so just to remind you that first you need to put your offer in front of people so they can buy and you can help them, otherwise you're not helping anybody.
So true.
And that you can maybe try to find that fun in it and that joy in talking about your offer. And I think you are really great at that. Do you sometimes struggle with that? Or what are your strategies to really up your energy when it comes to launching? Quick pause, just a short interruption to share something I think you're going to love. If you've been dreaming of building an online business that gives you more freedom, more time freedom, more location freedom, and more ease in your day-to-day, I have something special for you. It's my free on-demand training called How to Create and Launch Your Signature Online Program and Create Consistent 5K months and beyond. Inside this 50-minute masterclass, I'm walking you step by step through the exact framework I use to build a sustainable six-figure business from my online programs. And honestly, I think this is one of the best masterclasses I've ever put together. People are already raving about how valuable and eye opening it is. And I keep hearing how much clarity it's given them to finally move forward with confidence. This isn't about chasing trends or working harder. It's about designing a business that actually supports your life with aligned offers, simple marketing strategies, and a system that helps you earn consistently so you can focus on the work you love. Whether you're still figuring out what to teach, you've launched something that didn't sell the way you hoped, or you're simply craving a clearer path forward to build your online business, this masterclass will show you exactly what's working right now and how you can create steady income doing work that feels meaningful. And truly, if you've been listening to this podcast and wondering, how do I actually put all of this into action? This is the best place to start. You can save your spot and watch it right away for free at susannereiker.com/masterclass. That's SUSANNEREIKER.com/masterclass. I'd love to see you inside and help you build something that feels sustainable and aligned. All right, let's get back to today's episode.
I actually think I struggle with content that doesn't have a direction. I actually struggle outside of launches because I'm like, where are we going? What's everyone doing? It feels when you've got a launch, whether you're in week 1 or you're towards the end, there's just such a very clear directive. You're funneling your audience towards a specific, point in the journey. Whether you're pointing them in the direction of a conversion event or a lead magnet or it's the offer itself, it feels so clear. So that's why I love launching. It gives you this very clear journey. When it comes to the content side of it, how I get myself energized, I love to, again, play around with methods. And I think it's, kind of always like change one element and see what happens. And that's, again, when you are in the process of launching regularly, you get to do that. I think it's when you do the once or twice, you're like, how does anyone make this work? But it's that ongoing repetition. But coming up with really fun campaign angles and messaging that makes your offer not feel maybe like you've already sold it 10 times. Because I think that can start to happen if it's your signature offer, you want to launch it 2, 3, 4 times a year. You're like, I can't talk about this anymore. But your audience doesn't know it as much as you know it. And there's actually so many different angles you can come from. I kind of describe it as like the wrapping paper around the offer. Whether it's zooming in on one particular messaging angle or zooming out a little bit, or whether your layer is like it's AI or it's something topical for your audience and how your offer helps in that realm. It's just that's what makes it fun and feel different every time you launch and gives it a new little twist.
Yeah, those are great tips. I think from my experience, what I struggle with, I love showing up live, like hosting the masterclass, and that's amazing. Also leading up to that and seeing that people sign up for it. And then you are in that position where you just wait for people to buy and things can be slow. I mean, it's not like you're like the 2021 anymore. And then it's really difficult to keep up the energy and to keep showing up.
Yes, totally. It's kind of like it's this wave of momentum. And that's, again, part of why it works, because we create these little deadlines throughout. You open the doors and there's probably the warmest people who are like, yes, I'm in. And you're like, yay, this is going so great. And then you kind of start to, you take your foot off the gas and you're like, oh my gosh, no one's messaged me. No one's bought in a day, 2 days. Sometimes it can go on and you're kind of wondering, should I just stop the whole thing? What should happen? But that's kind of the ebb and flow of it. And it's actually when you need to be leaning in the most and leading it, because that's when those sort of middle of the road people are really making those decisions and they need that information. They're the ones combing through the sales page, combing through every caption, looking and waiting for you to post another story about it to see if you're going to post another testimonial or case study, or if you're going to talk about a bonus. They're the ones that you need to show up for, and they're usually the
Yeah.
lurkers, and they're very quiet. And I
Yes,
think we
definitely. Yeah.
all attest to being a lurker in someone else's launch where you're like, oh yeah, I really wanted to buy that. I don't comment or I don't engage. So I always say do it for the lurkers.
And people wait really until the last minute sometimes. It's I always
Mhm.
tell my students it's not over until it's over.
Yes,
So don't
100%.
say it's not working. You don't know yet. It's not over yet. Which is also why I found like 7 days really work best for my launches, because after that 10 days is really difficult to keep the energy up and to keep
I,
people engaged. And less is just too short, especially when it's a more premium price point.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I would agree with that. To exactly that deadline myself. I think you will get fatigued naturally because it obviously that's a lot of content and a lot of showing up. We're not superhuman, and your audience will start to be like, well, I'll make the decision in 10 days time, in 12 days time. So it's finding that happy middle of enough time where they have that time, especially if they're newer, they get to know you, they can get to know the offer a little bit themselves. So I think 7 days is a nice little harmony, especially if that's going over a weekend period. Weekends are those kind of notorious quiet moments. So giving yourself enough time, but not too much where they run away from you.
and do you share more content in your launches then? Is it like more heavily in the stories or also like a post every day? How do you mix that up?
I like to use them in tandem with each other. So I'll always have something going on my feed, but I would say there's probably a lot more happening on stories. They're going to be shown to those people who have been engaging the most. And like I said, are waiting for you to make those posts and looking at everything you're doing. So I really like to use those in lots of different ways. Again, polls still leading with a lot of value, following up on things that maybe if I did do a training or a workshop or a masterclass, recapping that and really showing them why I think I'm showing up for you now, but I will be there to show up for you when you pay to work with me too. And I think that's important to really show that you're going to be a consistent person, a reliable person. You're not just there for the sale right now. This is actually, you're investing in me and I'm thus also investing in you.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's why it's so important also to share what's going on in your signature program, the work you do in between launches. Like, what
100
is the experience like? That's why I so strongly believe in having a signature program, because it's going to make your life also a lot easier when it comes to creating content. And I also like to combine launches with an evergreen funnel. So you're not
Mhm.
just relying on launching it every quarter. I mean, you can't launch it every month. That's going to be overwhelming for you and your students. Um, so having an evergreen funnel, that's also going to make it easier for you when you struggle with content creation, because then it's just like, yeah, your call to action is getting people into your free training, your evergreen training, or your low ticket offer or whatever.
Yeah,
And
I
so you
all for
have
the
that
hype.
messaging around that all the time. And
Mhm.
then launching it. So you just like, you play a bigger game, you show up in a bigger way, you put it in front of people's eyes as well who went through your evergreen funnel but didn't buy. They're not never going to go through your evergreen funnel again, but
Yeah.
they might still be interested in your program. Maybe it just wasn't the right time. So when you launch it live, it's just like, oh yeah, no, it's
I don't.
perfect. So now I'm ready to sign up. I had people sign up for my high ticket program after they've went to my live launches like 2 or 3 times.
Yep. Yeah,
And only then they were ready, basically. Yeah.
yeah, every time you launch, I say you build trust capital. Like you're not just selling to the people who are going to be ready to buy then, but you are investing in future clients. You are reigniting interest in people who maybe were close before. And same as you, I've had people who have come to 2 or 3 webinars before buying, and I've been selling the same offer.
Yeah.
And so much about, your launch results a lot of the time actually have nothing to do with you and sometimes a lot of nothing to do with your content. It's where people are on their own journey, and we try our best with our messaging to scoop them all up and get them into that place that's ready to buy, but we can't control that. And that's why it's so important to not just launch at the one time, because everyone's on their own journey. They might be like, oh, now's not the time because of XYZ, whether that's valid or not. They start to then, as you said, they see your stories as you're actually facilitating the work and getting results for clients. And then maybe it's 2 or 3 months later and they're like, actually, oh, okay, it's back. And now there's a different bonus. And maybe that's what, catches my eye this time. So yeah, that's truly why I love the power of launching and having that hybrid model, of course.
Yes, definitely. And we talked about this, we touched about this, like launching, that energy, how problematic and how difficult it can be to keep it up. And when you are in that phase where you're waiting for people to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one KP I want to share. So I share like with my students how to regulate your nervous system, etc. But in my last launch, I used ChatGPT as my therapist, and it was amazing. And what I love about it is it's so encouraging. It's always like, oh, this is an amazing idea or something. It's always so encouraging. And yeah, so it gave me some really, really great advice where I was just like, oh my God, what's happening here? It's like, so you're doing everything right. Take a deep breath, and gave me some tips what to do. So I just wanted to put that out there for people. When you are in that moment, use it for support, and it's really helpful. It can be really, really amazing. Also, analyzing your results does a great job of that.
Yeah. I mean, I work with a lot of my clients too on like launch mindset and how to build that resilience through that 7-day period or however long it is, and to prepare for the quiet and what to do, and how to also make sure you take a step back and you go do something else for, an hour. You're not just sitting there waiting for the sales. But I love the ChatGPT trick. They're obviously going to always be our cheerleader. I love that. But yeah, it is coming down to sort of going through the motions a few times, and you start to really identify the patterns, and also collecting that data along the way, because once it's all said and done, once it's really over, you can go back and look at, okay, here are some patterns I can pick up on.
Yeah, that's so important. I didn't do that for my first launch, and I wish, like, unfortunately, I can't go back, like, okay, what are my results back, like, before the pandemic even, and I didn't really record them. I mean, I know I can still look at the number of sales, but that's pretty much it. And now I'm really recording everything, and I love just comparing my own numbers, basically. And that's how you create stability in your business, when you know your numbers, and you can basically reverse engineer what you want to do, what results you want to get, basically. So I think that's really, really important. Oh God, what do I want to talk about? I wanted to ask you, it's going to come back in a minute. What other tips do you have for people who maybe launched a few times and are really ready? So now I need something fresh. I need some new ideas. I can't really do the same things again.
Yeah, that, like, I've been saying, there's lots of kind of different elements you could choose to switch in and out. So it might be that it's the mechanism, it might be that you want to try something different, whether that's a different type of like live element, or you don't do something live, it's more, something that you create a little like specific list that, again, it could be email based, it could be using something like close friends. It's sort of like how you just change like the actual structure before you kind of get into like the meat and potatoes of it, I guess. So if it's that you might find like a little spark of, excitement for, you could totally change that. Or it might be looking at the offer and being like, how can we add sort of like a campaign theme to this and make this feel like it's a new offer again? And it's not about rebranding it. You don't need to change the name, the logo, anything at all. But looking at like within your niche, within your audience right now, seasonally, what's happening? Can we sort of add in like more of a visual campaign element? Is it because it's a new season? Is there like a pop culture or nostalgic element that works for this as well? And that's kind of one of my favorite things to do. I'm more of a creative led strategist, and I always like can see something before I can sort of see how it's actually going to come to life. But again, that can just add in excitement for you, and it's kind of a creative element to get your juices flowing a little bit. That can inspire a lot of the content. It can inspire a lot of the messaging. And again, it would kind of stimulate and wake up your audience as well in a new way.
I think it comes really also down to planning your
Mm-hmm.
launch. Don't just rush into it, but really plan it out. What results do you want to get? How do you want to show up? And plan it out so you're not going to stop showing up because you've already have it in your to-do list. Like, I'm creating those 3 lives and those reels, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And I don't know, I had launches where so this is not my signature program, so let's do a quick launch, just a simple webinar. And then I didn't show up in a big way. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of fell flat. And this can happen also when we underprice ourselves, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or it's just a lower priced offer and we don't take it as serious,
Very true. Very
right?
true. I know
So
this about lead magnets. If you're launching a lead magnet or a free result or a free masterclass, you should make it as important and valuable as anything that you're selling.
yes, and then you don't get the results you're hoping for. And when you do a launch, like for your signature program, and I had this with my last launch, I was really committed to showing up in a really big way. I didn't have money for ads, so it was just like, I have to sell this organically. And it
Mhm.
worked really well because I was showing up and I really was forcing myself in a way. And I
Yeah,
wasn't
getting
really
getting
forcing
top of mind.
myself. I was just reminding myself every day, no, show up, show up, show up, show up, show up. And it worked. I
Mhm.
had people join my program who've just discovered me on Instagram and
Yeah.
didn't buy my low ticket offer before, didn't sign up for the masterclass and joined. I was like, wow, where's she
Yeah.
coming from?
Yeah, crazy. I've had the same experience. People not registered who end up buying. And I think instead of trying to see it as this thing I need to show up, it's knowing, what do I want to say today? What do I want to talk about? If this was a sales call with a client, what questions do they need answered?
Mm.
What clarity can I provide? How can I make this logically the right next choice for them? And that comes down to, again, planning. So you don't have to be like waking up every day. What am I going to talk about today? How am I going to do this today? So a lot of planning, and not a lot, but I mean a little bit of planning, knowing what are the different ways I need to talk about this offer, and what does my audience need to hear in order for them to be ready.
Yeah, it's such an important element of it. And also like how you talk about it. It's not just repeating the features,
Yeah.
but it's really like what you do in emails, and you can do that on social media as well, like addressing objections, addressing beliefs people have, sharing case studies, sharing your story. All
Yeah.
those elements are what's going to help you sell. It's
Mm-hmm.
never really the features, the number of videos or one-on-one calls, or yeah, people want to know about that too at one point but in the end, it's the transformation.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
You recognizing how they feel now and how they want to feel, and providing that
And
bridge.
yeah, and Instagram, I mean, is perfect for that with all the different formats and videos and Facebook camera. And so you can really address so many different things in different ways to make it creative. What's the worst experience you ever had in a launch? With like what you never want to have happen again?
I would say it's probably more tech issues that feel stressful and feel like you've ruined everything. The one of the very first webinars that I did do, had I had my partner downstairs, like also on Zoom, so he could let me know if there's anything going wrong. And my business coach was also kindly there as well. So I had people attending, and luckily I did. Basically, I had set up the settings that no one could use the chat. I could message, and I was actually messaging people as I was, welcoming everyone. And I was like, there's people here, but why is no one responding? But it's like, I better start, we're a few minutes in, and there were some weird settings. Basically, there was just a lot of blockages basically. And my partner had to come in and be like, think you need to stop and start again. And I had to close the Zoom, restart it. And fix all the settings, fandangle everything. I had my business coach messaging me being like, I think it's these settings. Yeah. And I just had to start again, and it really frazzled me. And I felt a bit like, oh, I really hyped myself up to start, and I felt calm and clear. And then that happened, and I was, thrown off track. And I was like, well, I've just closed the Zoom. Is everyone actually going to join again? And luckily, most people did. But, things like that aren't the bigger deal, but in the moment feel like your whole world's crashing down, and emails maybe, accidentally sending twice, two at once, or all those silly things. They stressful, but really no big deal in the end.
That's a great reminder that even like a launch expert, right? So first you have to learn launching until you have all those things figured out. But mistakes and those things, tech issues can still happen. They can always happen. I mean, I had it that I forgot recording, and then after the session, I had to sit down and re-record everything so I could send out the replay.
Oh, yep. I've heard of people doing that. Yeah.
And probably also some issues with links. I don't really remember so much, but things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's part of it. And I think it adds to the live launch experience. And if you can somehow make a funny moment of it with your audience, I'm sure they totally understand as well.
What do you tell people who are afraid of that and say, but I want to go on evergreen right away. I don't want to live launch.
I feel you would be doing a disservice to your offer and its ability to make you sales, but B, finding out the feedback and getting that. It's like a live feedback loop on your offer, and it's sometimes not always the easiest thing to experience and have to deal with, but you really do get so much intel. You find out what content's falling flat. You find out what content's bringing in sales. You find out what's stimulating conversation, what's not at all stimulating conversation. So obviously there's a lot of allure to that passive evergreen funnel, and I think it certainly has its place to make those sales for you in the back end of your business. But what is so powerful about launching is you learn so much every time. It's always different every time. And it's such a great way to actually give back to your audience. I really see it as an opportunity to serve your audience and connect with them and really get to know the people in your lead system.
Yes, 100%. I 100% agree. I think really you need both. And especially when you launch something for the first time, you want to do a live launch at least once or twice.
Yeah. Yes. If you feel that evergreen is quiet, your first launch will always be a bit of a shock to the system
Conversion
as well.
rates are also higher when you launch live, and it's because it's just like your energy comes across in a different way. You can't really have that in an evergreen funnel in the same way.
Yeah, it's urgency, it's elements of scarcity as well, but it's you can imitate that with an evergreen funnel, but your audience is essentially going through that funnel on their own. There's not this other buzz and demand and elements around them, which adds to, again, that excitement and you showing up and being the one to lead them through. And yeah, I find it fun.
No, that's great. So what is the let's say like 3 tips you want to share with people before I let you go when it comes to launching?
Give yourself time to properly warm up your audience. And this usually comes back to actually planning your year a little bit more effectively. Most people will run into the issue of, oh, I need to launch by this date because of, I need to run a live cohort, or it needs to happen for this other thing. And that's usually just poor planning. And then they quickly pull together a launch, they open the doors too quickly, and they don't get the results. So giving yourself time to A, plan, and then B, actually warm up your audience as well. My second tip would be really thinking about putting content up on the to-do list a little bit earlier, whether that's getting support. And I really think outsourcing the whole thing is not ideal. I don't think you just want to hire someone and be like, go ahead and do it. You want to be involved in it. But if that's getting editing support or carousel design support, anything that's going to make it easier for you to be more consistent with it is only going to benefit you, and investing in that in the same way you would invest in any type of other support with your business, really, because if you're not marketing, you're not selling. And the third thing would, do it for the lurkers. Do it during the cold, quiet periods that's when you want to show up. That's when you want to keep leading. And again, it's not just about showing up and saying anything, but knowing what your audience needs to hear and what's going to get them to see this as the next step for them.
I love it. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. So where can people go to learn more about you?
They can come find me at the social Britify, and that's where I am on Instagram. So that's basically where I spend most of my time. But I do have some great free resources at the moment, especially when it comes to launching. If you're wanting to either revive your results with the format you've been doing in the past, or you're wanting to try something new, very into creating campaigns that feel fun for each individual person and really make their offer an exciting moment online.
Great. So we add the link to the show notes. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your expertise and your wisdom around launching. It was really fun.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Blissful Biz podcast. If you found this helpful, I'd love it if you hit subscribe and left a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other yoga teachers and coaches find these strategies too, and it would mean the world to me. It really makes a difference. And if you're ready to take the next step, head over to my website, susannereiker.com, where you'll find my free resources, latest blog posts, and all the ways we can work together to grow your online business. Until next week, keep building your blissful biz.